first video game console that I ever owned was this little black and white Game Boy Pocket right here. Look at that thing. It is beautiful. Little did I know this device would be a vehicle to a long love with a huge video game craze.
Back in the yesteryear of 1996, Nintendo, a company producing Golden Goose after Golden Goose, released possibly the goldenest goose of all, the Pokemon series. I'm pretty sure I don't need to explain how much of a phenomenon the Pokemon series was at the time. Hell, even your great-grandmother could probably tell you what a Pikachu is.
Yet despite the Pokemons being all the rage, a lot of people still don't know how to play this game. And that's why I'm here. Today I'm going to take it all the way back to the originals. I've already played Red or Blue, so I'm going to take it back a little bit further to what is considered the first version of the game that was only in Japan, Pokemon Green.
One thing that's always attracted me to the Pokemon games was seeing all the different sprites of the Pokemon. Interestingly, Pokemon Green has completely different sprites from Red and Blue. Some were better in Green in my opinion, but some I'm glad they changed. For example, I like Execute more in Green than Red and Blue, but Hypno is much better in Red and Blue. I wish they'd kept Goldine's look in the Green version, and thank fucking God they changed Ekans from his original Green sprite. Also, I strongly prefer the Green coughing sprite over the Red and Blue one, because it's in the wrong fucking direction!
Well, no more stalling. It's time to show you guys how to play Pokemon Green. Did that look good? I don't know.
The first thing that you want to know... Oh no... Oh yeah, the whole only released in Japan thing.
This'll be fun.
Okay, I have to name my character. I'm gonna have my name be a smiley face, so I know when people are talking about me. Oh, and my rival. He's gonna be a frowny face.
Well, despite the game being in Japanese, the core mechanics are the same. So I'm just gonna get into my tips anyway, and here's the first tip. Learn the damn type chart.
Yes, it's complicated. Yes, it's large. Yes, it's a lot to take in, but it is the whole system the game revolves around. You'll need to know what beats what to pass this game with flying colors. And yes, the game is well designed enough to have you learn such things on your own over time, but does learning on the fly help me now? No! A little outside studying is a bit helpful. Well, I suppose we should start our Pokemon adventure. Yeah, Mom, whatever you say. The beginning of the game is simple enough. You walk out into this grass and Professor Oak stops you before something terrible happens to you. You know, something like a weak little rat as tall as your foot wants to fight. How terrible.
That's terrible.
He'll take you back to his lab where he'll let you and his grandson pick out your very first Pokemon. Thank you for calling the Choose a Starter hotline. To pick the Lizard Pokemon, Charmander. Press 1. To pick the Tiny Turtle Pokemon, Squirtle. Press 2. To pick the Seed Pokemon, Bulbasaur. Press 3. Make your selection now. Thank you! You have picked the Seed Pokemon, Bulbasaur. Would you like to give your Bulbasaur a nickname?
No, I'm good.
Before you get a chance to leave the lab, Frowny challenges you to your first Pokemon battle. It's relatively simple, just keep using your damaging attack until you either win or lose.
Really, in my opinion, it's up to luck whether you win or lose, but yeah, I think the odds are in your favor.
Now we've been set loose into the world of Pokemon. Well, almost. Before we get to do any real adventuring, we have to go to Viridian City and get to the Pokemart, or the Poke Shop as it's labeled here, and pick up a package for Professor Oak.
Oh, thank God I know how to play this game in English.
Now that we have a Pokemon and some Pokeballs, let's talk about teams.
Building a solid Pokemon team isn't all that complicated, but I don't think it's something that a lot of people actually think about. The method I use is pretty simple. You just pick something that beats your weakness. Here's an example.
First, pick a Pokemon that you really want on your team. I'm gonna start with Dragonite. Dragonite is weak to Ice, so I'll want to get a fighting type to beat the Ice type, something like Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee is weak to Flying, so I'll get a Rock type, Rhydon. Since he's weak to water, I'll grab an electric type like Jolteon. Electric is weak to ground, so I'll grab a Parasect as a grass type. Grass is weak to poison, so a psychic like Alakazam is a good choice. And nothing beats a psychic type. Viewing this team as a whole, looks pretty spiffy to me.
And for God's sakes, have a variety in your attack typing. A Blastoise with Bubble, Bubble Beam, Surf, and Hydro Pump is what now?
Terrible.
Right. Have a variety in your attack typing and try and have something that beats your weakness, like a Dragonite with Flamethrower to beat ice types. Now you might say to yourself, building a team like this in the beginning of the game is pretty difficult since you don't have a lot of variety in typing, right? Or do you?
Here's the deal, Monty Hall. In a lot of areas in the game, there's that one special Pokemon that's hard to come across. Now that we're in Viridian Forest, let me get into some detail on that.
In the red version of the game, you're likely to stumble upon a whole bunch of Weedle. And in the green version of the game, you're likely to come across a whole bunch of Caterpie. But if you search long enough, you can find both the first and the second stages of the other game's bud. But they're not the treasure of the Viridian Forest.
With a bit of diligence, you might run into a Pikachu. And let me tell you what, you're going to want to grab one for your team so you'll have a badass electric type real early. Thankfully, I've got the Pokeballs that Oak gave me. Hey, wait a second. In all the other games, Oak gives you 5 Pokeballs to use, and I only got 1. Oh, fuck this. So here's another tip for you. Keep your bag stocked up with whatever you think you'll need. It's pretty important to have some Pokeballs at the ready, along with potions, stat-curing moves, and revives, just for when an opponent would score that lucky hit, and you've got to tread dangerous waters to get back to the Pokemon Center. I'll take this, and 7. So now that you're probably stocked up on what you can only guess is the right items, you can grab yourself a Pikachu. Got you this time, you yellow son of a... Now while you're in a place like this, poke around for items on the ground. Right now the items are only decently useful, but you might find some of the good shit later on, so take some time to look around. Now, I've got one more reason why Viridian Forest is so cool to be in.
So I didn't really get into the point of the game. Basically, it's...
I wanna be the very best.
So there you go.
And how do you achieve being the very best? By defeating the 8 gym leaders in the region. The first one is Brock in Pewter City. His Pokemon are at decently high levels compared to everything else, so you'll probably have to do some grinding to get strong enough. And Viridian is a great place for that. Why? These two fuckers right here. Wild Metapod and Kakuna only know Harden, so they absolutely cannot hit you at all, and they give pretty good XP for the area. You can train here without a problem until you feel ready to move on, or get bored out of your skull.
The tip here is to find a route or a cave that gives good XP without being much of a hassle. Make the effort to get as many levels out of that place as you feel is worth your time. Then go make the next area your bitch.
I think at a time like this, it's time for a training montage. Oh, that didn't take long. Back at the gym, Brock uses Rock-type Pokemon, so if you pick Bulbasaur or Squirtle, you should have no problem here at all. If you pick Charmander, enjoy your confusion using Butterfree. Easily enough, we obtain our first of 8 gym badges, and we can move on to the next part of the game. But not really. I think we all know the Pokemon games are long and take a lot of time to complete, and I think we've gone over everything that really needs touched on. Let's take a look at those tips one more time. Tip 1. Everything in a Pokemon battle revolves around types, so familiarize yourself with the type chart. Know what's good on what, and what things you shouldn't do. Tip number 2. Work on putting together a good team. This is more important in the late game, but early on, try and get different type Pokemon to set yourself up to battle anything that might show up. Tip number 3 is a lot of the good Pokemon are rare and hard to come across, so take the time to see what's in the grass when you reach a new area in the game. You might find something awesome. Tip number 4, while you're searching for Pokemon, search for items too. Leave no corner of the game unexplored. You can find a lot of really interesting stuff if you look hard enough. Finally, tip number 5, take the time to grind out some levels. A good strategy can overcome level differences, but it's worth it to raise the stronger Pokemon to make the game much easier. These are really all the tips that you need to be a Pokemon master, you guys. That's how to play Pokemon. Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to watch my vids. Throw me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more how to plays. Send a comment this way telling me what game you'd like to learn how to play. Also, as a special little extra, some of you might be disappointed that all the further I played in this game was the first gym. If you guys want me to, I can try and let's play the rest of this game in Japanese just for your viewing pleasure. Tell me in the comments if you guys want to go on the journey with me. Get ready for the next how to play coming soon. Bye!
That's terrible.